It is July, which means we are here to tell you which Commander cards are most worth buying right now.
I'm Mia, and my hair turned out way brighter than I thought it would.
I'm BZ. I'm about to replay through Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories to see if it holds up. We're the Nitpicking Nerds, sponsored by Card Kingdom. Now, if I'm being serious for a minute, I think Card Kingdom's the best website to buy Magic the Gathering cards from.
I definitely agree, because they have all the cards that you will need. You will get all of them in one tidy package, and they will all be in excellent quality if that's what you pick. There's also very good, near mint, and a bunch of other ones.
Honestly, Card Kingdom for me helps reduce stress when I'm ordering. I have had a lot of orders from Redacted website, which is not a good place to be or to work for, but that place sends me packages helter-skelter all over the place, and I won't get a third of them, and then I have to go complain about it, and Card Kingdom has none of the drama. It's great.
Card Kingdom, awesome. We're also sponsored by Dragon Shield, best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
If you use the code
NERDS
at checkout, you can save 5% of your room and tax dollars on your entire order, which includes blue sleeves, whether you want like aqua blue or teal or dark midnight blue. They have all the blues that you will ever want in a lot of other colors too.
Moxfield is a website. What does it do? I guess you'll have to wait until the middle of the video when we surprise you with an ad to know what it does, but it's pretty cool. And we have a Patreon. They help keep the lights on. If you want to join their esteemed ranks, then you know where to find it. Let's get into it. We've got finance. The cards that we think are most worth buying. That does not mean to go buy 1,000 of them, upset the market, and make everyone sad at you on Reddit. That means buy a couple copies for your Commander deck, because we think at the current price, they are more than 100% worth your money.
But if you like specking, hold on just one moment, because if you skip later in the video, we will also have a spec game just for you and us, because we like to compete.
We always play it at the very end because we do love to compete, often for no reason or benefit. So adding some stakes, making it public, that's a great way to go.
Yes, but we are going to talk about the first card. This card has been so good in all of the decks where I have seen it being played, to the point where you're often stealing it out of my decks if you can.
That's true.
It's Vein Ripper at $11. 3 black for a 6/5 flying with ward. Sacrifice a creature. Whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 2 and you gain 2 life. This card has been awesome. I'm playing it in Edgar, which obviously it fits in very well, but I was hesitant to put it in other aristocrat type decks because the price was so high for so long because of that Pro Tour. But now it's down to $11 and I am much more happy to splurge for it.
Yeah, this card was the hot commodity in, I think, Pioneer, and I don't remember if this card got banned or if the Sorin Planeswalker that cheated this thing out on turn 3 got banned, but this was like a player everybody kind of knew and had their eye on this for Commander, like as a potential cool aristocrat payoff, but nobody wanted to spend $25, $30 on it. I was like, what? This is 6 mana. Like, you really need a few things to go right before this card starts being good for you. It doesn't just win the game like a Bolas of Citadel or something. But now that it's down to 11, I've seen this card in games be one of the key players. We were on ED Hijinks with Olivia and Alias V, and this was one of the biggest spells played in the game that we were in.
It's such a disgustingly good spell. If you're not playing tokens and you are paying fairly for all of your creatures, Ward Sacrifice a Creature is a very big price to pay. Yeah, in the early game you might have these disposable things around, like, ooh, this found me a basic land so I can get rid of it. But in the later games, after a board wipe or something has happened, you're trying to rebuild, a lot of your resources are a little bit more taxed if you're trying to play like threat after threat, and if this comes down, another board wipe will absolutely just smash the entire table, or you'll be using more of your resources to kill the thing that's trying to ping you for a ton of damage.
That's the other thing too, is that sometimes the board wipe comes from inside the house because I just want all the creatures dead. I'm going to take my 50 triggers and just win the game on the spot. Vein Ripper is pretty sweet. $11 does feel like a very fair price. I feel now like I'm getting extra bang for my buck with the 11 versus like 20 something.
When I think about power creep, I feel like Vein Ripper is one of those power creep cards, because I'm always thinking about things like, ooh, for 6 mana, what can I do? And I thought about like the olden days where it's like, I don't know, Butcher of Malakir, 7 mana vampire, where it's like things die and you profit. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good one to steal. But Vein Ripper just amps that up to another notch with a Viscerous Seer in the Edgar deck with like just tokens you have lying around, and just any creature dying, it's just like, okay, yeah, you sacked your little Eldrazi spawn or something for mana, I'll have you lose 2 life and I'll gain 2 life. It starts to add up very quickly.
Yeah, I think this goes very well with stack outlets. It's probably the best way to play it. I think if you can't proactively trigger this either with a bunch of removal or with a bunch of sacrifice, you don't want it in your deck, but a lot of decks can jump through that. It's not even that small of a hoop to jump through. It's a very big hoop You can just walk through it.
Yeah, I think so. There are so many good sack outlets, or if you're just playing 3-for-1 removal spells, like we like to always talk about, the Soul Shatters of the world, the Flare of Malices, and all of that.
This with Flare of Malice?
It's so good.
Get out of here.
You sack your own thing for the cost because, oh, I don't have to pay for that. Also, take 2, I'll gain 2. And then all of you guys sack your best thing. Also, take a bunch. I'll gain all of that right back.
Yeah, this does not blanket damage all opponents like a Zulaport Cutthroat, but you can target one player and knock them out. I think that's valid. That's a valid way to play the game.
Yeah, even if they remove this after, a few creatures die, even after they remove after 1 Flare Mouse, that's still, 8 points dealt to the table, and you've gained 8 life.
Plus the ward.
That is gigantic. Yeah, maybe there's another creature too. I was thinking even just maybe like a different sort of like everyone sacrifice or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can manage to get a 5th trigger off that too, 1 flare and 1 ward trigger, that's already a 25% life swing in your favor, and then 10 damage dealt to the entire table.
There's a lot of good things about this card. It's also just a beefy 6/5, so there is some combat damage to be dealt with this. But before we gush too much on Vein Ripper, we're going to go to For the Common Good, a card from Bloomburrow. It is 99 cents right now. It's XX green for a sorcery. Create X tokens that are copies of target token you control. Then tokens you control gain indestructible until your next turn. You gain 1 life for each token you control. There's a lot of token you control written on this card. The weird thing is that they don't just gain indestructible this turn, which I guess would kind of be useless on a sorcery. Just so important to know that it's until your next turn. So there's some added protection. It's not like no board wipe could ever stop you, but it's like half of board wipes don't work now.
I feel like this is a very cool card. I've been playing it in Roxanne lately, and it has been amazing. If you didn't know, when Roxanne makes meteorites, they come in tapped because of Roxanne. The meteorite doesn't come in tapped naturally. So when you make a copy of a meteorite and you make 10 copies, for instance, they'll all come in untapped and they'll deal a bunch of damage to the table. On its face, I think that this is pretty nice because if you have like Selesnya humans or something, it just says all of your tokens get indestructible until your next turn. You can swing in freely for a bunch of combat damage and you can gain a fair amount of life. If you have a ton of mana to throw into this, you can make a ton of copies of your best token, whether that's like with Populate and you made an awesome token, or you just have a bunch of little mana producing tokens and you make a bunch of treasures or meteorites or whatever.
Yeah, the only problem with this card you might run into is that it doesn't always work. You kind of have to be at parity or ahead for this to do anything at all. If you don't have tokens, then you can't gain life and you can't make copies, and doesn't matter that they would gain indestructible because you don't have any. So once you get going, this is a card you really want to see in your opening hand. Once you get going with almost any token, it does give you value. Mana producing tokens are pretty sweet. Not necessarily treasures, but like the Skyclave Relic token or a meteorite or any sort of copy of something like that. Those are pretty sweet. I like those. Clues food, probably on the lower end. Tokens, like creature tokens, maybe just the best way to go. And then I like the fail case of 1 mana, gain like 7 life, give them indestructible, give your opponents a little bit of a headache, and maybe even play a board wipe yourself on the same turn.
That could be super cool. I think For the Common Good, I don't see it around that often, and I think it should be played a little bit more. I think it's a very cool card.
Yeah, it's not busted, but it's definitely worth $1.
Yeah.
That's the thing is, we got to proportion our excitement to like the price it is. This is definitely worth $1. It's not worth $11 like Vein Ripper is, but this I think is worth $1.
Also with Bloomburrow, I felt like there are a lot of things that ran under the radar. We all freaked out over things like Three Tree City and the Talons and all that, which are very cool cards. But things like For the Common Good, and I'll talk about this maybe in a different episode, but I think some of the seasons just went under the radar.
Oh yeah.
And I think that they deserve a little bit more love. Up next is a card that has hurt me multiple times in recent games. It's Price of Progress at $7.50. 1 in a red for an instant. It deals damage to each player equal to twice the number of non-basic lands that player controls. If you know me, I like to play 3, 4, and 5 colors, and I like playing a lot of non-basic lands, even to the point where in my 2 and 1 color decks, I am often playing as many non-basic lands as I can. So when Price of Progress hits the field, I get at least 10 points of damage usually.
This is, I think, the best burn spell in Commander, especially when you factor in how much mana you're paying for it. All you gotta do is wait a little bit. That's it. And then they're gonna have like 6 non-basics. And I think that's really good for like the level 0, thought here is like, whoa, my burn decks, I'll double my damage, my Torbrand, my Emodane, every number, my Solfim. Why can I name so many of these replaceable damage doubler commanders? That's cool, that's fine, but I'm just thinking if you're aggressive, I think you should just be playing this card. If you are a deck that wants to get the game over with pretty fast, I think this card's great.
I think it's awesome too. I feel like there are so many awesome non-basic lands in Commander that people are always trying to put in those utility slots, whether those are MDFCs, lands and spells, obviously.
Guilty.
War Room,
Field of the Dead.
Field of the Dead, all of the card draw, Fountain Port, Minas Tirith, some of my favorites, dual lands, whatever. There are so many awesome things to be putting in those slots because basics just kind of don't do as much as we'd really like at a certain point in Commander, and this will punish people. I have to put this in Perforos. I have to snag myself a copy. Maybe I should go to Card Kingdom, go online.
And that's not a deck that has any synergy with non-combat damage. It's just a deck that wants to get the game over with and just kill people. And this is just a faster way to do it than anything Perforos can come up with, so you might as well play it.
Yeah, I just think that I have been hurt by this so much so recently. This plus Sunspine Links in a monocolor red deck just means that all of your opponents are going to take way more damage than you will.
Yeah, I think this is even viable in two-color decks. We are the people who get hurt by this. In a two-color deck, I'm pretty sure either one of us play 7 or 8 basics.
Yeah, but I mean, in a two-color deck, there are so many awesome lands that you can be playing. Even if you don't go I don't want to play the Gain lands or, the Scry lands, the temples and stuff.
I mean, you just don't get punished for playing non-basics.
Yeah, but you're playing things obviously you're playing things like Command Tower, Exotic Orchard. Maybe if you're playing a Precon, you're playing a Path of Ancestry. You're playing Opal Palace. You're playing...
Are we naming the whole mana base?
Yeah, we're naming the entire mana base at this point. You're playing Stump Stomp in your two-color
Of course. Deck. But there's not a reason for me in deck building not to just do that, not to just max out on powerful lands that give me something. This is one of the only cards that punishes that. So if you're having problems with Field of the Dead spammers like me or dual land spammers like you, get this card in your deck. It will end games. But next we're moving to the card that has probably been hit the most, had the biggest dip recently on our list. It's Tymna the Weaver, a.k.a. Cecil Harvey from Final Fantasy. This is explicitly the
Cecil Harvey from the Ages
showcase printing. It's the one that doesn't look like a Magic card. It's $18 and it is 1 white black for a 2/2 lifelink. At the beginning of each of your post-combat main phases, you may pay X life, where X is the number of opponents that were dealt combat damage this turn. If you do, draw X cards, and it has partner. I would say the partner is not relevant because normally we talk about these in the 99. But Tymna was a $50 card.
Still is.
It's not that good. It's really not that good. It is not a blow the game wide open, holy crap, they have Tymna, I can't win. It's just a pretty solid mid-rangey combat damage payoff card. And now it is finally affordable. So this might unlock commander decks for people that want to play Tymna plus some goofy partner.
It's just an awesome value piece. And we have seen every other partner, the ones that are being played a ton, at least, get a ton of reprints. I mean, Thrasios just got some sort of reprint in some sort of special ages thing.
Yeah,
we see Rogue Rack just got a Final Fantasy, special printing or whatever. Tymna was one of the only ones that was sitting up there when will we get a Tymna reprint? Because it's $50 and all the other copies are still $50. But if you need one and you like Final Fantasy or just need one for your deck and you don't want to shell out $50, it's so nice to be able to have an alternate art at $18. I'm so happy to see that.
Yeah, as someone who doesn't really care for this treatment, I would just take the L and say my commander's 50% uglier, but I have a commander. Now I get to play this deck now.
I think it just makes it a lot more viable for people who want to own these cards. It's just $50 versus $18 is just a very big jump. You could get more than 2 of these for the price of an original Tymna.
Look, Tymna's art isn't even that great anyway, so it's probably honestly a toss-up. Wanted to give that PSA because this is a card that has dropped probably one of the most, since out of all the Final Fantasy spoilers. Next, we're going to go to Skyclave Apparition, one of my favorite white creatures. It is 50 cents, and it's 1 white for a 2/2. When this creature enters, exile up to 1 target non-land, non-token permanent you don't control with mana value 4 or less. When this creature leaves the battlefield, the exiled card's owner creates an XX blue illusion creature token, where X is the mana value of the exiled card. They don't get the card back. This is not Fiend Hunter.
Nope.
Not Banishing Light. No. I think, for the most part, Banisher Priest type cards are pretty awful. I would not play almost any of them. Fiend Hunter is an exception for combo-y stuff, and the cards differently. That's not what we're talking about. This one is fantastic, and it is the God Killer, because when there's a tricky permanent that you can't answer, like a Perforos or something, get it out of here.
Skyclave Apparition has hurt me in CEDH, in normal EDH. Both places, it's very, very good, whether I have been seeing it in blink decks, recursion decks, or even just being played for 3 mana because it is that powerful. How many things can you name that you run in your decks that will kill the One Ring? Well, I can name Skyclave Apparition. I guess I could also name, like, Pick Your Poison and maybe a couple others, but there are certain sticky, very sticky permanents that are very hard to get rid of, and this will take care of, I'd say, a fair amount of them.
Yeah, if you're in a creature deck that can reuse this or flicker this or bring it back with like a Savine's Reclamation, that seems like a very plausible card to have alongside this. You are in heaven because you know you're just going to be able to answer everything. The one downside I could say of this is that this is not a card that necessarily will like machine gun down the entire board unless you have some kind of like built-in flicker stuff going on. But if you're just playing this, eventually recasting it once or twice, like with a Carador or something, I don't know why that comes to mind.
Crazy.
Once or twice like that, you're going to get some good value and you're going to be happy with it.
I think this has been awesome. I love the fact that it will, like, when we say, would I trade X for Y? Would I trade, the One Ring and give them a 4/4 instead? Oh, yeah, I would.
Yes, please.
Would I trade a Rhystic Study and give you a vanilla 3/3? Yeah, I think I would. And there are so many lesser targets that I would love to snipe with this too. Would I trade you a 1/1 for your Soul Ring? Yeah, I would. That's the point.
That's why we like it. It's not a fair trade.
It's a versatile card, and it's on a creature too. I think that card is awesome, and it has served me so well. Whether it's in a budget deck or a non-budget deck, I think it's been great.
But like, here's the best part. It's 50 cents.
Yeah.
Go buy 3 of them, put them in any white creature deck you have, and then just profit off of it and answer all those stupid One Rings. Next, what do we got?
We have Sylvan Safekeeper at $4.50. I'm surprised this card isn't worth more. It's green for a 1/1. Sack a land. Target creature you control gains Shroud until end of turn. This card is sweaty. This card is when you need to protect that one piece. You go, no, you can't. You can't have that one. I'll get rid of all my lands just to show you that you can't have this one piece. And I've seen people do it, and then they win the game because they needed to protect that one piece. It's a very good card. It's a great turn 1 play if you're playing these sweaty combo decks or you just really need all this protection. And if I don't have in Sylvala already, I really should put it in there. It's a really good card.
Yeah, I mean, I almost want to apologize to everybody for just not talking about this card enough. This card slaps. This is definitely like it shines better in bracket 3 and bracket 4, which I think is where a lot of people end up, especially bracket 3. This is going to do so much work. It actually feels like cheating. I think your situation is plausible if the creature is that important and people try to throw the table teams up against you, throw some kill spells at it. What actually I think is going to happen with this in like bracket 3 Magic is you just play it and it's basically an emblem that says your creatures have Shroud, because I'm not going to spend 2 mana on a spell that doesn't work.
Yeah.
There are decks that Sylvan Safekeeper can really, really go crazy in, like Life from the Loam, land loopy decks, but I'm not even talking about that as a baseline. If you're just ready to sacrifice one of your lands to protect your really important pieces, probably something along the lines of like a combo piece or just a really big engine that's going to go off and win you the game in a turn or two, this will get the job done. And it probably won't even cost you a land. But if it does, you're prepared because that's a fair trade for you.
And then also it is mono green. And mono green is one of the best things about it is the fact that you're ramping a ton, or you have the ability to ramp a ton. It's not like you're rocking 25 mana rocks in green decks. You're going to be ramping with lands. You'll probably have a couple extra to spare around for the fact that it's like, okay, well, you want to kill this thing? No, I'll sack a basic. And instead I'll give it Shroud. And, oh, your spell doesn't work. Sorry, you wasted your swords.
It's like Mother of Runes is really annoying because it can save itself. But there's an entire turn window where it can't do anything because it's summoning sick. This is just Mother of Runes without the waiting, and you can save multiple things at once if you want. It's kind of silly. And the most crazy thing about this card is that it's green, like you said, and it's 1 mana. So you can do ridiculous things like birthing pod your token away into a Sylvan Safekeeper or instant speed Court of Calling for 1, throw this thing out, and when those 2 scenarios, if they don't know that you're about to get Sylvan Safekeeper and they don't respond to the activation or the casting of Court of Calling, you just get it in play and then you can immediately sack a land to give it Shroud.
Also, the best part about this is the fact that your lands don't need to be untapped. It's not tap and sack a land. It doesn't care. You could be all tapped out, and then if you can, say you convoke out, Court of Calling in your case, and you just sack a tap land, you go, actually, your thing doesn't work. Sorry about that.
I can't even overstate how silly this card is and how worth $4.50 it is. If you're skeptical that it's worth $4.50, go on Moxfield. Moxfield's a website where you can build, sort, brew, chat, comment, tag, and reorganize your entire collection if you really want to. If you want to check card prices, you can filter through your favorite retailers like Card Kingdom or I actually can't name another
There
one.
actually aren't any other ones. Card Kingdom is the best place online to be putting your cards, and also Moxville is the best place online to be building your decks. If you want to see where you're playing Sylvan Safekeeper, type it into the search bar above, and you can see that BZ's playing it in CEDH, and he should be playing it in more decks.
I really should, and I'm going to go add it to my
Belladros
Belladros deck right after this, actually. Next up, we got a card that is highly played, partially due to CEDH, but I think it's a little underplayed in casual Magic. Also, it is Simian Spirit Guide, a $2 common. It is 2 and a red for a 2/2 if you're crazy, but really, you probably just exile this card from your hand to add a red mana. It's a ritual that can't be countered because it's an activated ability. It probably won't be countered. It's a nice way to just discard a card, or exile a card, to add a red mana. It helps power out bigger things. It itself is nothing.
I've just seen this turbo out some really scary commanders. I've seen this in the VV decks. I've seen this usually where I would see this played alongside like the Lotus Petals of the world and stuff. If you're not playing Lotus Petal for artifact synergy and you're just playing it to turbo out your commander as fast as possible, I would be playing Simian Spirit Guide too. Maybe you get your 3-drop commander out on turn 1. That is a very big tempo shift and it's very real. For $2, I think that's awesome.
A lot of this does come down to what your commander is and what it does, because if your commander provides card advantage in any way, I think you 100% want Simian Spirit Guide, as long as Simian Spirit Guide will ramp you into your commander reliably. Like, I have a Queen Marchesa deck, just makes you the Monarch, that's basically it, and I'm 100% jamming this in there because it means turn 3 Marchesa every time I have it. It's really easy to get that extra pip, but if you're like, you know, triple green and double blue or something, like maybe it gets a little weird depending on what your thing is, but probably if your commander draws cards, you should be ramping into it with Simian Spirit Guide. I think a lot of times in commander, at the end of the game, I am not short on cards, but I've always at some point been short on mana.
Yeah.
And I'm happy most of the time to just pitch a card, essentially mulligan, to get almost an extra spell ahead.
No, I completely agree. I think that this is a very clean way to do it. And I'm always happy to see this in my opening hand. It just means, wow, I can play my most impactful spell 1 turn early. And you either need to burn your removal spell a little bit earlier to kill it, or you just realize like, okay, well, maybe, I'll have to save this removal spell a little bit later because I'm just that much faster getting it and like deploying it out than you. I think especially in those decks where you want to slap down those like damage doublers, I also should be running this Bifrost TBH. Slapping that down way earlier is incredibly scary.
Yeah, I have a vivid memory of being like pretty down on this card and Dark Ritual and Lotus Petal like 7 years ago or 8 years ago, like right when the channel was starting. But there's just been so much stuff that's come out that is just card advantage engine must kill threat that just doesn't do anything except win you the game unless they answer it, like the One Ring and stuff, that I just am so happy to ritual out into. Commanders are way stronger than they used to be. They do way more. All of them say draw a card whenever you do some stupid niche thing. So get that in, get the Simian Spirit Guide down, cast your commander, turn ahead, schedule, and be great about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, 7 years ago, I would have been a little bit more down on this too, but also 7 years ago, I was playing 34 land Kalia with, 5 CMC average,
Yeah, it was different times back
We were
then.
playing Battlecruiser back then. We didn't need Simian Spirit Guide. I wasn't sweaty back then.
Well, when we missed land drops back then, it was just bad luck.
Yeah, it's just, bad luck, and it's not my fault.
No. If your deck fits some of the criteria we mentioned, drop the $2, try out Simian Spirit Guide, see if you regret it later in the game, but I doubt you will.
I doubt you will too. The next card is from Final Fantasy, because we had to put a couple of those cards on here. It's the Regalia at $1.49. It's 4 mana for a 4/4 vehicle with haste with Crew 1. Whenever it attacks, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a land card. Doesn't have to be basic, just any land card. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped and the rest on the bottom in a random order. This will find you a land every single time off the top, which I love. I feel like, the Elvish Rejuvenators of the world, it hurts when you whiff on those. That really feels bad, but this one, you'll never whiff.
And if you go too hard on MDFCs with things like Elvish Rejuvenator, you're more likely to whiff by a few percentage points, and this just cannot miss. Maybe there's some weird thing to do, if you get real bored, where you stack a bunch of MDFCs in your deck and you always find like the same 2 lands, because you could get weird with that, but I think this is just a really solid, like Solemn Simulacrum level ramp piece that feels way above Burnished Heart, which like nobody plays anymore.
No.
I haven't seen a Burnished Heart in forever. It feels way above that, and it feels like maybe on par with Sad Robot. I don't know. Is that crazy? This feels like it can get you 2 lands like pretty frequently.
I don't think it's the craziest thing. I think it's what do you care about more? I feel like if you're gonna care about it being a creature more and like bringing it back and dying and bringing it back, then maybe you like Sad Robot more. But I think it's pretty on par. I think the crew one is very easy to do, and I love the fact that it attacks immediately, so you can get that. It's not like you need this window to wait. It's pretty easy to just grab it, and you don't need the combat damage or anything. 4/4 is pretty beefy too.
With Solemn Simulacrum, your floor, your worst case scenario is higher, but it almost always just does that thing. This has a way higher ceiling, and there's like a small chance, you know, of a creature out or they kill it for some reason in response to just mess with you. That would feel pretty bad. But I think the average case, this is going to get you 1.5, 2.5 lands.
Yeah, I think so too. And the fact that if you have artifact reduction in your deck, you know, the Foundry Inspectors, the Ethereum Sculptors, etc., this can come down a lot sooner than turn 4 if you really can ramp into it.
This is one of those cards that's going to test your ability to know whether or not your opponent is going to block a creature. The answer is almost always no. By the way, you can jam almost anything into anyone's commander, and if they're the same stats, they're never going to block. This is a terrible trade.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm going to be throwing the Regalia at everybody, and they're going to be like, I have a creature. It's like, yeah? And?
Yeah.
And they go, take 4.
Yeah, you might have a creature, but are you going to block with it is the real question. That's a whole other video, though. Will you block with it? Most chances, no.
Nobody blocks in Commander. That's not even a real game action you can take. Next up, we're going to go to Phantasmal Image, $4.50 for one of the best clones in the format. It's 1 and a blue for a 0/0. It's a clone of any creature on the battlefield, except it's an illusion that has the text, when this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, sacrifice it. You are paying a premium while you're getting a reduction, a huge reduction, because you're here for a good time. You only get like the enters, the death. You're probably not attacking too much with this. If it becomes an issue at all, it's going to die immediately. It gets blown over by whatever, a ham sandwich. But if you can get a nice ETB out of it, you only spent 2 mana. This thing has some serious firepower behind it, and the fact that it only costs 2 has a few upsides with things like Sun Titan, Savine's Wreck, things that care about mana value. If you're Court of calling this out, you only got to pay 5 for it. That is nice.
It's been very useful. I'm running it in Galadriel right now, and I didn't think I would have as much luck with it as I just genuinely thought. I thought that it would die very quickly, and I was a little bit lower on it when I first put it in, but seeing it come out and just turbo out some of the things that I really love, even if I'm just having it copy it like a Ledger Shredder or something, that has been insane value. I've really liked having this in my deck.
Yeah, I think just don't expect this thing to survive like 2 rotations. If you can get any sort of value to mitigate the 2 mana you spent, you're going to feel great about it, and it has all those other upsides that we mentioned. I think creatures, I don't know, I feel like I haven't played this card, like, at all. And I think I should be playing it more. I feel like players have strayed away from clones a little bit because it feels more fun to just build towards synergy, and clone is like a pretty easy card to cut from your deck over some super sweet card from the new set that you want to try out.
Yeah.
But I got to give more love to Phantasmal Image. I got to put this in some decks. I think I'm playing like 0 clones in all my decks.
Yeah, I think I am more down about clones than usual as the sets go on, because clones are at rate 4 mana. There has to be something good on the battlefield, and that's not the best rate in the world when it's just like, okay, well, I could be putting in a 3 mana thing that has synergy in my deck, or a 4 mana thing that gets me something a little bit better every single time, like a consistent effect. But at 2 mana, I think that's a fine investment, especially if your deck is very low to the ground and you want that nice low curve.
You know what maybe is like chipping away at my love for Phantasmal Image and Phyrexian Metamorph cards I love is like they just keep printing mediocre 4 mana clones.
Yeah.
And I genuinely couldn't even begin to name all of them, but it's like every 1 to 2 sets there is a 4 mana clone with flash and like half a line of text of upside, and I just don't care. I'm sorry, I'm never gonna do that.
4 mana is the rate of a clone, but no one's paying 4 mana for clones anymore. Well, you're thinking about things like Synth Infiltrator, because that has improvise. We're thinking about things like C Double, where you can copy a spell along with getting a clone of a creature later in the game.
I don't play clones at all.
Like, I'm just saying that there are, with 4 mana nowadays, there are just better things that you can be doing for that, getting a clone effect, and then also either cheaper or getting extra tagged effects on top of it.
You don't like Mirror Hall Mimic?
Who?
Exactly.
Who's that?
All right, we're going to jump to a Dragon Storm Precon card that was all the rage, and it's only in like 8,000 decks right now.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody was so happy to jump on the train, but then nobody built with this card, but it's still good. Steward of the Harvest. It's 99 cents right now. It's 3 to green for a 3/3. When this creature enters, exile up to 3 target land cards from your graveyard, and creatures you control have all activated abilities of all the stuff exiled with it. If you exile a forest, all of your creatures tap for green as long as this thing's in play. If you exile a fetch land, now they tap sack for whatever land that your fetch land gets. If you have a Nykthos or whatever, God forbid you have the Wombo combo, you kind of just win. You're storming off at that point. Haste Enablers make this even crazier. This card is still good. I think people just forgot to play it.
I think so too. There are so many awesome effects on lands, whether that's just all of your creatures turning into fetch lands. I mean, that's a pretty base level besides like just basic lands where it's like, okay, that's an awesome thing. I can get death triggers and I can get lands out of them. It's sealing being Nykthos, 3-Tree City, Cabal Coffers, anything like that. That's amazing. That is some awesome synergy that you can be having in your decks. And Steward of the Harvest, I feel like, just was not, it was the new hotness. And then just like things like Hashaton and Afterlife from the Loam and Anok Strike Leader, some of our favorites, they got pushed to the side for Final Fantasy, where Cloud came along and killed Sephiroth, who also gave me an emblem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, something like that. There's always a new shiny thing. This one maybe just got forgotten. Maybe people think that it's more niche than it actually is.
But he's cool.
But Steward of the Harvest?
Yeah, Steward of the Harvest, cool. He's a cool guy.
What's the trend going on? It's like, my magic card's about to activate an ability. You better not say anything while he does it. It's really cool. So Steward of the Harvest, you don't need to be like a Teval leaves the graveyard dedicated precon upgrade. If you can put some cards in your graveyard reliably, if you have any self-mill, or if you just have a bunch of fetch lands and creatures in your deck, I would 100% jam this. This is a card I need to get into some decks. Maybe it's just for some reason, I think picking up magic cards has been more difficult in the last couple of years. I just have trouble knowing what to get when I'm constantly looking at previews.
I have decision paralysis.
Yeah,
I completely agree. There are 15 sets a year, including 25 secret layers, and there are a lot of cards coming out.
I think that's partially why people like this format. It's like, let's remind you of some good pickups right now because you are just bombarded with a million things.
Yeah, but Steward of the Harvest, if you didn't see our gameplay, you should.
Of the precons.
It's a little bit late at this point, but Sam from Howling Salt Mine does a very cool play with this and some death triggers. You should go check that out.
That's kind of sick.
But this card has been very awesome every time I've seen it, and yes, it is 99 cents good. It is 99 cents, yes.
It is 99 cents good, but let's make way for that with a shiny new card. It's Yuna, Hope of Spira, $13. Let's get a read on that, Mia.
It's 3 white green for a 3/5. During your turn, Yuna and enchantment creatures you control have Trample, Lifelink, and Ward 2. At the beginning of your end step, return up to 1 target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. This is a series about the 99. Yuna is an awesome commander, don't get me wrong, but she's also great in your Sithis decks, in your Enchantress decks, in your Bant whatever, in your Takasia decks when you're trying to be getting in your Abzan.
Onyxia.
Onyxia is an awesome one. In your Narcy.
Yeah,
there's a lot of options.
There are many options. I think Yuna does shine when you can explore outside just the green-white color identity. Because when I think of this, I'm thinking like I'm going to get back like an Omniscience. I understand that you get it at the end step, but if your deck has Omniscience in it and you're trying to go for that, you have a bunch of instant speed card draw, and it shouldn't be that much of an issue. There are ways to give your stuff flash to get around that downside. I still think that's an extremely powerful thing to do. You're also spending 0 mana on it. It's also going to have Ward 2 if you untap with it, and Yuna stays in play. Even if they kill your Precious, Nixplamation, or your Omniscience, or your Captive Audience is another fun one. It's fine. You get another go at it next turn.
When I first saw Yuna, my first thought was Starfield of Nyx, the one that animates all of your enchantments, because they can get very, very big.
Trample, yeah.
Yeah, Trample, Lifelink, and Ward 2 once they're all creatures. I think that if you're animating any of your enchantments, this is a slam dunk in there because you're going to be gaining so much life. Now imagine you get the Omniscience on the field, and then you're like, oh, also, it's a 10/10.
Also, I'm going to attack you with it. You thought it was over at my spells are free? We're throwing hands.
Yeah, it also is Trample, Lifelink, and Ward 2. I'll swing at you, I'll gain 10 life from my Omniscience.
Yeah, I mean, because, you won't need to give it haste because you'll have presumably untapped with it. Also, if you have counter magic in your deck and you get back Omniscience at the end step, you've got built-in protection because it's all Force of Wills now. Unit is sweet. I think people need to build around it more. It's a really strong card, even just in the green-white Sithis deck. Just play it. It's so silly. You're just going to start getting back, even if you're getting back 3 mana things over and over, most of the time the finality counter is irrelevant. It's just going to get so much value that you don't care.
Yeah, even if you're just going, okay, going to end step, I'll bring back that Kendra's transformation. And it's like, oh, I thought you got rid of that. No, your commander's getting locked down yet again.
I mean, you're also just going to play a bunch of self-mill. How about cheating out Overwhelming Splendor on your least favorite player on turn 4 with this? You just play a State of Wayfinder, ramp something on turn 3 and play this, get back Overwhelming Splendor and just ruin their day.
Yeah, that is very viable, and this card can be very nasty. I'm happy to see it. I think that it makes green-white enchantments a little bit less stuffy and one-laned and a little bit more fun and just surprising.
If a card doesn't promote cast Utopia Sprawl, draw 3 cards, gain a life, I'm in for it for the green-white enchantments deck. They need that.
I think so too. On the docket right now is Esper Sentinel at $49. White for a 1/1. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card unless that player pays X, where X is this creature's power.
Might be controversial.
This might be a controversial one, but seeing this be a slam dunk in so many decks makes me think that it's worth a fair amount. I think that when you think of card draw, you think of a lot of things in that higher price range. We're thinking about the Ristic Studies at the $55. We're thinking...
Psych Rift?
Yes.
That's about 50, right?
Yeah, that's about 50. I was thinking about card draw spells, but I guess
I'm thinking of powerful cards.
Trouble in Pairs is pretty high up there too, but Esper Sentinel is the one that comes down immediately and will get you all of that, advantage throughout the game. It's tempered advantage. Plus, if you can find any way to put a counter on it, sure, they might pay 1. They're not paying 2. They're definitely not paying 3, 4, or above.
2 and up is impossible.
Yes, they are not paying that. How many times will people ever pay for anything 2 and above? Maybe they'll pay for 1 Ristic Study, but very few people pay for the the Smothering Tides of the world and stuff. And especially if the people are casting non-creature spells left and right, whether they get into a counter war or something, they just don't have the mana to spend.
Yeah, it is only once per turn, but that is very much offset by the fact that everyone's going to do it. Now, here's one of the things that happened actually pretty recently that sold me on this card, because obviously it's a 30 plus. This is never going to be a cheap card. It's always going to be very strong, and it's always going to be worth at least 30 in my eyes. But what sold me on the 50, this range, so we were playing a higher power game, and it was me. I dropped a Mystic Remora, and everyone's like, okay, guys, stop it. Don't pay for that. You're going to play a Signet? Don't do it. Skip your whole turn instead. And everyone's like, okay, yeah, because then he can't draw a card, and he's going to have to pay some cumulative upkeep maybe, and we can keep it off the field. And I was like, okay, bummer. They're just not going to play anything. And then later in that game, maybe 5 turns later, an Esper Sentinel comes down.
Whose was it?
It was not mine.
Yeah,
it was not my Esper
Sentinel.
I
know it was not your Esper Sentinel.
It was not mine. And
I don't remember if it was mine either. I just know it wasn't his.
The talk at the table was, are you going to pay the 1? Nah, you have it. I'm just like, what? Are you kidding me? We have to skip our turn 2 to dodge the Mystic, but we can just feed this thing? I think this is the most feedable version of all these. Everybody knows, don't pay the 1 off Ristic. Skip your turn, maybe, I guess, to avoid the cumulative upkeep. He's going to have to sacrifice it eventually with Mystic Remora. Esper Sentinel's it's just a little buddy. It costs 1. It's only once per turn. You can cast as many spells as you want. I just want 1 card. It never fails to draw you a card. Somehow. Even though it's easier, theoretically, to dodge than a Ristic Study. This stupid thing, just the way the game progresses and the cadence of everything, it just always draws cards.
Ristic Buddy flies under the radar when he's not cast on turn 1, 2, or 3.
He really does.
He is awesome. As I mentioned earlier, if there's anything that you can be putting any sort of counters on, I've seen this be played in medium power decks where someone plays it turn 5, they have their Brina out already, they put 2 counters on it.
Ugh.
No one's ever paying.
Now you have to kill it.
No one's ever paying again at that point. It gets nasty.
He rides the line on should you kill it quite often if he's a 1/1, but if he's a 3/3, you gotta just kill it because that's ridiculous. But Esper Sentinel to me is without a doubt top 5 white cards in the format. I don't know because I haven't sat down and ranked them in a while. It might just be the best white card in Commander. It just might be the best thing that goes in literally every single white deck ever built. And that to me is a $50 card.
I think there are a lot of top contenders out there, but when I think about $50 white cards, Esper Sentinel is the first one to come to mind. The only other one I can think of is like maybe if you're rocking tokens, you should be playing Ocelot Pride, but that's not $50 good. This is $50 good.
This is $50 good. All right, let's go break some faces with Professional Facebreaker. It is $4.99. It's a tenth of the price. It's 200 red for a 2/3 menace. Whenever one or more creatures you control hit a player, get a treasure token. Sacrifice a treasure, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Now, I think this was actually a clever reference to Knuckles.
I mean, of course it was a clever reference to Knuckles. He is a professional facebreaker, and he is mono red, just like professional facebreaker. The question I have for you, audience, and also Watsy, did they predict Knuckles when they made professional facebreaker in Streets of the New Capenna? I think the answer is yes.
Well, no, Knuckles came out first, you know.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, was that a sign that they were going to put Knuckles in Magic? I think the answer is
guys.
yes.
Don't worry.
Wink,
Knuckles
wink.
is on the way, and he has double strike. Anyway, this is one of the classic like red cards. If you have a bunch of creatures in your deck, if you have a lot of evasion, if you have flyers, idiots, unblockables, little spectral sailor type dudes, this is great for you. You're going to get a bunch of advantage off of it. But even by itself, I find that even if I go nothing, Facebreaker on turn 3, I'm going to hit somebody with it. Menace is kind of annoying. Like I said, nobody blocks in Commander. It's not real.
Professional Facebreaker is one of the cards that actually utilizes your treasures into actual card advantage.
Right, it's important.
With treasure decks in the red plus area, you're usually saying, I will discard, or I will go like on par with cards to be getting extra treasures out of it. You know, the Pyres Pillages of the world, or, you know, the
Big score.
Yeah, big scores of the world, where you're like, discard a card, play a card, draw 2, create treasure tokens. That is like, you are down 2 cards, you are up 2 cards, you're about even. However, with this, now that you have a bunch of treasures, and maybe you don't have anything to do with it at that point, you can actually turn it into card advantage, and I feel like that's one of the things that I'm hurting for the most in big mana decks. I have so much mana, what am I going to do with it? Well, probably sack a treasure to this and turn up a card and maybe play it.
Yeah, this is a lot of legs in a lot of different red strategies. Pretty much any red deck that plays like 1-drop creatures probably wants this. The treasure synergy is like, yeah, obviously. Everyone who's ever built a treasure deck probably has this. And it's one of the best cards for that reason that you mentioned. Get this in your red decks. It's a $5 card. It used to be $12, and it was still worth it at $12. I'm a little lower on it than I was a couple of years ago when it first came out. I still think it's a very solid card, and the price is lower, so doesn't that just work out perfectly?
Yeah, the first time you actually talked about this back when this series first came out, it was about $4.50 back then, so I'm happy to see it returning to that $4.99 price, and it is holding its value despite being reprinted in every precon that can run it.
Fun fact, I'm pretty sure this is episode 39.
There have been a lot of episodes, but I'm happy to see it because this is one of the most fun series to do because we talk about a lot of cards and we get to play a lot of cards and mention some of our favorites.
And they're monthly, so it's been like well over 2 years. But we get to go to the next one, a card that I just won a game with. It's Monument to Endurance, $6 for a 3-mana artifact. Whenever you discard a card, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. You either draw a card, make a treasure token, or each opponent loses 3 life. You have to be some kind of dedicated discard deck. The caveat of do you want this card in your deck comes from I have free discard outlets or very, very cheap discard outlets. I'm talking Psychic Frog. I'm talking Ghostly Pilferer. I'm talking
Key to the City, maybe?
Tortured Existence. I want like repeatable ones.
Yeah.
Unfulfilled Desire. If you have cards like that, this card is silly. This card is kind of ridiculous because you're just going to do all 3 every turn, get back one of your cards, damage them, and then make some treasure for the next turn. It's really... it's so useful.
Monument to Endurance has been very good. It slaps down very quickly at 3 mana. And don't tell me that Aether Drift didn't have any good cards. There was at least 5, and Monument to Endurance was one of them. If you're in a dedicated discard deck, or you just have a lot of discard, you know, maybe you're playing a lot of wheels or something, this funds you a lot of cards, like whether that be drawing or having people losing life. I think that is very easy to be getting all of those modes if you're in the right deck to do it.
I kind of think most of the decks that play this are going to be blue for some reason, like a blue-black kind of thing, because then you get to play like Frantic Search and all that nonsense. But there's probably like red decks, like we just mentioned, Pirate's Pillage and
Faithless Looting,
Unexpected Windfall, that kind of stuff where if I'm playing Faithless Looting, this does offset that card pretty well. I don't love Faithless Looting a lot, but this is definitely a card that helps me move the needle on it and get it into my deck.
Yeah, and then red has all the wheels too: Wheel of Fortune, Wheel of Misfortune, etc., etc. So.
I don't know if this is like 100% a wheel card, but I can totally see it.
I think that if you're playing it in the Grixis types, maybe you're playing in like Nekuzar with a heavy discard theme. Maybe
each player discards a card, then you just draw a card.
Yeah, maybe you're playing it into like maybe the Turgid decks or something. You know what I mean? Like it's colorless, so you have the option to be playing this in a lot of different color identities.
Yeah, it's open up for a lot of action. There's a ton of stuff to do with it. I want to experiment more with it because I have it in like blue-black. Psychic Frog, the most obvious,
I think it's been really, really solid. Maybe if I turn... I think that this could also be really good in Kefka and stuff. If you're running that more of a discard way.
That seems great.
There are just options like that. Nicol Bolas.
Yeah, if your commander makes you discard a card, that kind of changes the math on how many cards that work with this that you'll need for your deck, because you're just going to have your commander every game. So that, like, you barely need anything else as long as your commander always does something. That's cool. Or the entire rest of your deck can work around it, and this card's going to be great.
The next card is a card that BZ hasn't really been liking because I have been hurting him with it.
Make it stop.
It's Clarion Conqueror at $1.29. 2 and a white for a 3/3 flying. Activated abilities of artifacts, creatures, and planeswalkers can't be activated. This includes Mana Dork, Soul Ring, and any planeswalker. Not that we play those too often, but it has been very impactful. If you're not running any of those in your decks, it will hurt the rest of the table. Also, Chris put in the new artist proof that I have. I'll show you a clip right here. It's really awesome. I just want to highlight it.
Oh, yeah, that was actually really cool. Definitely worth the flex, but don't listen to her. She's lying. This card isn't even real, and you can't buy it anywhere. You definitely can't buy it on Card Kingdom. It shuts off every deck I've ever built and every deck I ever will build. I don't know why, but I rely on a lot of tapping and untapping and mana dorks. And any Signet or something, your deck could just get shut off by this. The saving grace with this card is you can't just throw it into any deck because then your deck doesn't work. Or, most of these non-green decks rely on artifacts to ramp. So you've got to have the right storm brewing to play this. But in, those 10% of white decks that can or should play this, it's freaking amazing.
There are a lot of triggers decks or decks that really care about, ETBs or, on attack or whatever, where you might find this is very useful. And against the decks that really rely on the Mana Dorks and the treasures and whatever, this is going to be a must-kill threat for them that they might not even be able to do if their deck relies too heavily on artifact ramp, or just they have to save up or wait for a couple extra turns, and it's a big tempo swing that you can do your own thing in that time.
It's like they made Collector Oof. It shuts off triple the things, and it has flying, and it costs $1. I'm in for that. That's just amazing, except I'm not. Don't play it.
Don't play it, especially against him.
It's cheating. It's king-making. It's not. It's actually banned. It just got banned. Sorry, guys, but maybe better luck next time.
Yeah, in the best case scenario, I've seen it turn off Dothy Voidwalkers, which has been very nice. Mana Dorks, when people have just slapped down Mana Dork, they plan to play like a 7-drop on turn 4, and you go, actually, I don't really think so. Or just, the people who are making 45 treasures off Smothering Tithe, and you go, actually, I don't think you'll be able to use this.
Let's not get them too excited. I don't want to play against this card. I don't want to lose the game. So we're going to wrap with our spec game. Every month we buy 5 copies of a card with the hopes that it will go up. We're playing the finance game just for funsies, just to compete against each other. That's about it for bragging rights. So Mia, get to how much you gained or lost from your last month's spec and then what your spec this month is.
Sure thing. My last month's spec was Dreamtide Whale. It is an awesome card, and I got $2.70 off of it,
Pretty
which
sick.
I'm very happy to see that. There were a lot of cards moving up and down for Final Fantasy. Happy to see that this one was on the uptick. It's a very awesome card. You should play it. My spec this month is Energy Chamber, the 5th edition, and it is 99 cents. I think that with charge counters coming out for Edge of Eternities, I think that I want to set my sights on the future in space, and I think that this is an awesome way to do it. Hopefully it goes up.
If there's one thing that Magic players love to do, it's feel smart. And oftentimes that leads to just playing bad cards because people think that it's cool or smart to do so. Hopefully that works here. I am up 60 cents from my previous spec of Grim Feast. I love that thing. That thing's been pretty sweet in a couple of the games that I tested it out. And this month I'm on the same exact thing with you. We just kind of picked these 2 cards and then assigned them randomly. I went for Foil Double Masters Core Tapper. It's also a way to get a bunch of charge counters on your space stations. Is that the fastest way to get your space stations crewed up? Maybe not. Is it cool? Definitely cool. And it makes me feel smart.
We'll have to see who wins, but if you want to see last month's most worth buying and you want to see some awesome cards, check it out right here.
Don't miss it. It's still relevant.